Welcome to another episode of the Nasdaq Sustainability Series on Facebook Live. I am here today on the 51st floor of our Nasdaq headquarters in downtown New York, and I am joined, my name is Evan Harvey, by the way, the Global Head of Sustainability for Nasdaq. Joined here today by the co-founders of BrownFlynn. We have Margie Flynn and we have Barbara Brown.
Hello.
Tell us a bit about what BrownFlynn is and the work that you do.
Sure. Well, thanks for having us here, first of all. We are a corporate sustainability and governance consulting firm, have been in that space of what people know as environmental, social, and governance for corporations for a little over 20 years.
I would just add to it is a bunch of the work that we do with companies such as Nasdaq is not just helping them to identify their most significant environmental, social, governance impacts, as Barb was talking about, but this book in particular will touch upon the issue of diversity and inclusion, for example, and diversity in the workplace. And so it's something that we feel is very much aligned with the work that we're doing.
Very good. You mentioned the book that it was just recently published, Uplifting Leaders Who Happen to Be Women. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of this project. Where did it come from? What's the process? Who did you interview?
So for our 20th anniversary, Barb and I wanted to do something on behalf of BrownFlynn to give back to the community in a bigger way. We do something every 5 years in a bigger way to give back. And we've often talked about writing a book, and many people have said, you should write many books. But we didn't want to write a book and have it be about us. So we thought, what else could we do by having the net proceeds from this book donated to the YWCA to help the education of young women transitioning out of foster care. And we said, we have so many amazing women leaders, including Beth Mooney, the chair and CEO of Key Corp, who was really our champion for the book, as well as Adina Friedman, your CEO, who's featured in the book. And so we felt this was an opportunity to tell their stories and to share with others how they have uplifted many people along their career and others that have uplifted them and persevered. And they've obviously, you'll read about them in the book.
So I'll ask you, Barbara, how did you distill a lifetime, or at least a career lifetime, of wisdom and experience into the lessons in this book? I know you're interviewing female executives and other people with lessons about leadership, but how did you shape all this into a narrative that is a useful takeaway for people today?
Well, it took some doing, I will say that, but there were, even though these women come from very different backgrounds and different circumstances, I think that it does represent kind of a point in time as far as women breaking through the glass ceiling, and that was another one of our reasons for doing the book. And out of that came some themes that just seemed to be reoccurring. So whether it was that they had a mentor of some sort, or whether it was how they were raised, or whether it was, how they were driven by a particular school teacher. They all had different stories that we could see that they kind of fit a certain pattern. Not that the stories were the same, but the overarching themes were the same. So we took those tidbits from each of those individuals and put them into chapters, and then pulled out quotes that we thought were really going to be inspiring for others.
Well, let me ask you both for your impressions. What were the most surprising or unexpected responses that you got from interviewees? Maybe you have one each that you remember.
Well, I would say, in particular, we were surprised that many of the women cite men as their mentor or champion along their career path. And also, at the same time, that they were not as open to wanting to discuss the differences between women leadership and male leadership. And yet, they wanted to focus on what it takes to be a strong leader. The book itself, its title, is based on Beth Mooney answering a question that we said, what's the headline when you choose to retire? What do you want the headline to be? She said, I want to be known that I was a strong leader of an outstanding financial institution, and I want the footnote to be that I happen to be a woman.
Excellent. What advice would you give working women as they're going through the corporate ladder? I mean, obviously they face life and career choices, and some of their participation rates in some industries is lower than that of men, and certainly the promotional rates as they go through the corporate ladder has traditionally been lower than men. So what is the advice that you could gain from a book like this, or 20 years of business experience that you would give?
Imagine the stories that these women told us, and some of the the encounters that they had along the way. And I think, to a person, they were always focused on the next step. Whether there was something that happened that wasn't as pleasant, they would turn that into, well, how can I make that into an opportunity? It was also about surrounding yourself with kind of a little advisory board made up, so that you have people that are either your peers, or that you have someone that's older than you, someone that may be outside of the organization that you're working for, to give you some of those insights. And then the other thing they said, most importantly, was do it for others. Because if you've received that kind of mentorship and advice and counsel along the way, you have every reason to give back then. And so mentor others, men and women, and that goes both ways as well.
I would just add that it's how important it is to not be afraid to take risks. And many of these women took tremendous risks along their career path, and what they sacrificed also in many cases to get to where they are, and to follow your passion, and it will get you far.
So let's finish by broadening the perspective a little bit. Are workplace diversity issues inextricably bound up with sustainability issues?
Yes.
We all work together in this
Right.
corporate sustainability
Right.
space. How often do you come across workplace diversity and inclusion issues as part of the sustainability evaluation process?
Very often. I think, we know that a company, for instance, a for-profit company that has a diverse board, including gender diversity, performs better. And so that's one of the, business case points that we often make in front of our clients. But I think, companies are saying, okay, of all the issues that might be ones that fall under this umbrella of environmental, social, or governance, which ones should we actually focus on? And for some companies, it's really important to focus on diversity and inclusion. So that'll be a topic that we look at and say, this is where you are right now. How do you want to get even further? You want to set a goal, put out to the world that you are a company that embraces diversity of thought as much as gender or minority background.
I would say, too, that when we set out to write the book, if you think about right now, only 6.4% of the Fortune 500 are women executives, and sadly, only 2 of those are women of color. And so again, if by following the great advice in this book, the women and men that read it are inspired to uplift others, and the more we do that, the more we can ensure there's a pipeline of great women and those that support them, so that number is going to increase.
Terrific. Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Thank you for having
the
us.
book is available on the website, Amazon, all your favorite
Yeah.
If you
local
go
independent
to
bookstores.
if you go to www.upliftingleaders.com, you can find all the information you need about.
Right, and all
Buying
the
a
proceeds
copy.
go to the YWCA in Cleveland.
In Cleveland, because you are based in Cleveland.
We are.
Right,
Very
right.
nice.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
having
you, Evan.
us.
Thank you for
you.
coming.
Thanks.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Nasdaq Sustainability Series. We will join you again soon. Thank you.